want to assert that I'm not a Satanist is something I've invested a good deal of time, money and effort into being able to say. In Christian circles, calling someone a Satanist is the worst label you can give. It's worse than calling a woman a bitch or a whore, and it's more damaging than derogatory remarks about race and ethnicity. To be called a Satanist means that you are seen as an agent of the devil. Many people also associate the term with atrocities like child abuse or murderous acts. To fundamentalist Christians, accusing someone of being a Satanist means that they are the worst of the worst, totally devoid of morals and completely unrighteous. And that is how the word has been used against me. In this video, I will discuss the cult leader who has called me a Satanist and delve into the broader issues of coercive control within cults. Basically, I was accused of worshipping the devil as part of a broader manipulation tactic designed to alienate me from my daughter. I'm going to talk a little bit more about my relationship with my daughter and how thought reform has been used to reframe her childhood memories. Stick around because I'm also going to explain why I'm wearing a cape. The story of my daughter joining a cult was shared in a documentary made by Channel 7 Spotlight a few months ago. I don't want to repeat what was said in that, so I'll just post a link to the episode below and encourage people to check it out. I also don't really want to talk about the cult leader, especially not by name. What I do want to do in this video is share some of the background details in the hope that I may be able to prevent others from going through what I've gone through. There are many cults in Australia, and I was totally unaware of the issue of coercive control and thought reform before I lost my daughter, Alicia. She joined what I now understand to be a destructive cult. In many respects, Alicia's childhood was quite average. She grew up in a creative household because her mum's an art teacher. So I felt it was important to encourage her to express herself through music, dance, painting, and drama performances. Actually, when it came to school dress-up days, I loved making costumes for her. Her favourites were these princess dresses, and she loved to wear her fairy wings. And she'd prance around the house in these, just having fun. My son liked to dress up too. Here's a shot of him being a Jedi Knight. There was also another occasion where he decided to create his own superhero. And so he got some boxes, put some straws in it, and called himself Spiky Oranger. Having a household in which my children were free to express themselves and just have fun was just the sort of household that I really wanted my children to grow up in. We did lots of other fun things too, like camping and travelling. One of the saddest things of everything that's happened is that my son's lost his sister. They're 7 years apart, but when they were young, they got along really well. And so for the past 6 years, he's had no sister, and he's had to watch his mother go through this battle. So yeah, I view him as the silent victim. My daughter once believed that she had a well-educated mother. Instead, she's now been convinced that education is evil, and other things in her childhood have also been used against her. Alicia was always a creative child. She was making and knitting her own clothes from the age of 9, and she also loved reading. I think she read every Babysitter's Club book that was ever written. And when Harry Potter came out, she was just all over it. She read all of their books, and we watched the movies numerous times as a family. I really liked Harry Potter too. One time, my work had a dress-up day, so I decided to dress up as Hermione, and I made a cape as part of the costume. Believe it or not, that cape I made for that dress-up day at work has been used against me as so-called evidence that I'm a real witch. Yeah, I'm not joking. That's what's happened. I know so many people who love Harry Potter. One of my friends had a Harry Potter dress-up party one time, and I went as Moni Myrtle that time. Getting back to when my kids were younger, there were many ways I encouraged them to be creative and to use their imagination. At one point, I bought us all dinosaur onesies. So of an evening, we'd pop them on and pretend to roar at each other. Actually, when my daughter was younger, she used to really love dinosaurs. In fact, she used to want to be a paleontologist. She's either going to be a paleontologist or a singer. You're a shadow of the old and I want. While we were a household with music, art and literature and creativity, there was also a lot of critical thinking that went on. A lot of asking questions and trying to understand things from other people's perspective. I thought I had done the right thing by fostering a love of learning through fun. I know it's not just my memories that I'm projecting here. One of the things I did when the kids were little was we would read Grimm's fairy tales together. There was one time when we also read the Bible as well. Actually, we had to skip over some of the parts of the Bible because Alicia in particular thought that they were just too scary and too violent. But yeah, I thought it was important that my children heard the Bible story, so I read that to them when they were younger. When Alicia was in her late teens, we had some pretty typical mother-daughter conflicts, which I think most families experience something like that. After Alicia had finished high school, she went overseas and travelled for a little while, and she did work as a nanny over in Europe. By the time Alicia returned, we'd pretty much sorted out a lot of those mother-daughter teenage conflicts that we'd been going through. There was this one time when she was about 21 and she was reminiscing about her childhood, and she said, "Hey, let's read Grimm's fairy tales again." And so we made hot chocolates, climbed into bed and read some of our old favourites. This cape is actually inspired by one of those stories, and I'll get to that soon. A little while after that, I decided to move up to Brisbane to study mental health. Alicia decided she wanted to stay down here in Melbourne. So she was working part-time, studying, doing a TAFE course, occasionally doing a musical performance, and, just generally trying to work out what she wanted to do with her life. She came up to visit at one stage, and I tried to get a photo of the two kids, and as usual, they mucked around, made faces and messed up their hair, which, it's actually one of my favourite photos of the two of them. While Alicia was visiting, we also went out one night to a bar, and she suggested we share a drink. And we got this concoction of wine and fruit, and we joked about how we're making a healthy choice. That was actually the last time I got to spend time with my daughter alone. Of course, I didn't know that at the time. A few months later, when she'd returned to Melbourne, all communication just stopped, just very abruptly. We had actually been communicating nearly every day up until that point. It was mainly her reaching out to me, either through text or phone call, because, she might have had a bad day, or she needed help with an essay that she was writing, or she just wanted to have a chat. I was quite surprised when she just suddenly, nothing, and she wouldn't return my messages. And then by the time I found out that she'd joined a cult, she'd quit her job, she'd stopped studying, she'd moved out of the room that she was renting, and she'd given away all her possessions. I've always been a supportive parent. So even though I had concerns, I supported her life choices, all the way through to when she told me that she was marrying a man that she just met. I've got nothing against Alicia's husband, and I know that she loves him dearly. But the reality is, she married him only about 2 months after she'd met him. There were just all of these sudden life changes all at once. At first, I gave them my full support. They just seemed like they were this hippie group who wanted to go around helping people, and they lived in caravans, and we made jokes. Took you camping so often when you were younger, you loved it so much you want to do that for the rest of your life. I now see things very differently. Looking back, I wonder if there was something that I missed. But honestly, there were no warning signs. I've since learnt that cult indoctrination happens fast, really fast. The cult leader told my daughter not to tell anyone what she was doing. He claims not to manipulate anyone into giving him their money and possessions. He does, however, emphasise a Bible verse in which the first followers reportedly laid their wealth at the apostles' feet. This cult leader believes that he is an apostle of God who has divine authority. They also have this ritual indoctrination called the forsaking all ceremony. A few ex-members have told me that this involves parting with their best items of clothing by way of giving them to the cult leader's family. This cult leader doesn't need to work for money because he's really good at conning people out of their inheritance and high quality shoes, shirts, and anything else that's of value. Of course, I didn't know all of these details at first. To begin with, I followed the rule book, so to speak. For the first few years, I didn't say anything negative about the group to my daughter. After about 8 months, she broke up with her husband, which I later found out was because he'd pretty much been kicked out through what they call a grievance system process. Alicia was immediately sent overseas. She told me that she was going to stay with a group of other women whose husbands had left them because divorce and remarriage are completely disapproved of within this cult. It was during the following months, while she was overseas, that I got proof that all of our emails were being monitored by cult leaders. I also noticed that the things that she was saying to me and the way that she was writing in her emails were not, the way she used to. It's an eerie experience as a parent to receive emails from your child when you know that it's not their voice. It's not really them communicating with you. When Alicia did return to Australia, I saw her a few times, and by this stage, the alarm bells were just ringing all over the place. So I decided I need to talk to her directly. I sent her an email saying that I wanted to have a phone chat with her. So within about a day, she got in contact with me and we spoke on the phone. That phone call was really intense. I was crying. She was crying. I was asking her, had I done something wrong to make her want to push me away, or, what was going on with the group. And she came out with, something along the lines of that I couldn't accept that she loved God more than she loved me, which was just really weird because I'd never said anything like that. I'd always been supportive. So I was at that stage, I realised that she was definitely going through some sort of thought reform process. It was during that phone call that she also told me the name of the group for the first time. Up until that point, I'd just been told that they were Christians, so I couldn't Google them. I'm quite certain that when my daughter joined the group, she did not know their name either, because, it takes just a couple of minutes on Google and with their name, and they have got a very long, controversial history. I'm quite certain my daughter would not have joined this group if she had known everything about them. The other strange thing about that phone call was that she told me that she hadn't actually received the email that I'd sent a day or so beforehand. She said that she'd lost her or forgotten her password to her email account, and the only reason she'd called me was because the cult leader had told her to ring me, which I know I've got no proof of this, but I'm quite certain that the cult leader had access to her emails when she didn't. I saw Alicia a few times over the next few months. It was really challenging to organise this because she was expected to work such long hours witnessing on the streets in exchange for donations for books, DVDs and pamphlets which the leader had written. Supposedly no one in the group works for money, but they spend a good deal of time asking for donations and looking for new members. And I've also spoken to some ex-members who tell me that not only do they spend a lot of their time out on the streets trying to, basically make money for the group, they're also under pressure to meet quotas for how many people they can sign up onto their YouTube or how many pamphlets they distribute. To wrap things up a bit, what happened was, because I'd spoken up and I'd asked questions about the group, Alicia, initially she did actually start questioning things, and subsequently she was subjected to the grievance system. She was reprimanded for things like forgetting items when setting the table and telling the leader that there was grass on his shoes. But instead of getting kicked out completely, she was sent overseas. This was just before COVID. She went to Mexico, where she reunited with her estranged husband, who had rejoined one of the cells over there, and I was completely cut off. So this is really when I started learning about cults and coercive control. When I found out that the cult leader had been accusing me of worshipping the devil. I was really upset. Basically, what he did by accusing me of being a Luciferian, a Satanist if you like, was he demonized me in such a way that anything I said to my daughter could automatically just be dismissed. She's a Satanist. You shouldn't listen to anything she says. And unfortunately, that one insult has been really, really effective in destroying my relationship with my daughter. And I don't want to see anybody else go through what I've gone through. The only way that any of this could have been prevented is if I'd known to talk about cults and coercive control with my daughter long before she got entangled into one. When I saw Alicia earlier this year, she had what I'd say was a very blunted effect. That means that she seemed disconnected to her inner self, her inner emotions and thoughts. But there were a few moments when I was talking to her that I could see that she was still there. That sparkly, bright, happy child I raised was there. But it's just really been suppressed. Now to explain why I'm wearing a red cape. Some people talk of wolves in sheep's clothing, but I think Grimm's fairy tale of Little Red Riding Hood is much better. Anyone can fall victim to a charismatic cult leader. They do not present as ravishing wolves. Their facade is often as sweet as an old grandmother, and it's difficult to think they could do any harm. But if you look closely at their features, they give themselves away. They have big eyes that are all the better to see the vulnerability of their prey and stare down upon them with intimidation. They have big ears that are all the better to monitor and keep members under surveillance. And they have big teeth that are all the better to snarl at outsiders and enforce obedience within the group. I do not know what the future holds for my relationship with my daughter. If I'm lucky, she'll leave the cult tomorrow. But even so, what then? Who will be the next victim? How many families will lose a loved one to the coercive control of a high-demand group next week? These wolves in grandmother's clothing will not disappear by themselves. We all need to be on the lookout. That is why I have made this YouTube channel and the website Recover from Coercive Control. Cult leaders need to be exposed, and in order to do so, we need to know the warning signs. In upcoming videos, I will share the 12 criteria I use in the form of a rubric that can be applied to any group to assess the levels of potential harm. Please click subscribe so you'll be notified when new videos come out. But more importantly, have conversations with your family and friends about coercive control and cults.